And now, you're tuned in to RBLR, the home of Tampa Bay's RBLR Sports.
Hello, everyone out there in Tampa Bay and beyond. This is James Mills coming at you for the RBLR Sports podcast. I am here tonight with Carlos, who is rocking out to the beat of the RBLR Rowdies show. Carlos, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well, James. It's chilly. I've been at home all day, working from home, because DC got like 4 inches of snow and doesn't really know how to handle that. So everyone just kind of shuts down. It's still snowing. It's really pretty out. I'd turn the camera that way, but it's like it wouldn't work with the lights. You won't see anything. Yeah, it's a nice day. It's a nice day. I can't complain. I won $10 on like a $1 parlay on the Hard Rock app, Champions League games earlier, which was a good time. Shout out to Bellingham for scoring the game winner at the end, I think, for Madrid. Yeah, James, I'm doing well. We got the Rowdy stuff to talk about. We got some preseason matches that happened that no one was really around to see. So they could just be making it up. I don't know. Like they might have not played at all and just put out a score.
That's fair.
Yeah, we have an interview to get to, which I'm really, really excited for. And some Rowdies news, some roster news to talk about too. So there's a lot going on today. I'm really excited to jump into it. James, before we do any of that though, how are you?
I am doing very well. I'm doing so well, in fact, because this past week we were able to interview another member of the Rowdies 100 Club, a true legend with the team, and not only that, but a true legend within the USL Championship overall. This is the third overall appearance holder for the entire league, the entire history of the league. I found that out while I was in the middle of the interview, by the way. But yes, this is going to be a lot of fun. I got to speak with Yann Ekra. We recently had Sebastian Dalgard on, and he mentioned Yann Ekra. At the time, I had said that RBLR Sports was previously the home of the Yann Ekra Fan Club, and so I wanted to reach out to him and get him on, and he was gracious enough to join us. So thank you, Yann, for joining us, and yeah, we're going to get to his interview here in a little bit, but Carlos, that is why I am doing so well today. Is there anything else that we want to do before we want to jump into the interview? I feel like that's the best way to start this one, and then we'll get into all of the Rowdies news that we got. Yeah.
Flip-flop the order a little bit, get to the meat and potatoes before we get to the dessert, you could say. Skip the appetizer. Yeah, James, I'm excited for it. I'm really excited that you got to chat with him. I was so upset that I couldn't sit down and chat with Yann because he's one of those players that's been around for a little bit and wasn't someone I ever really got to interact with too much. He's one of the more kind of like background players despite his insane amount of appearances. He was one of those players that seemed to always go a little bit overlooked despite his insane contributions to the squad and to the USL as a whole and to his past teams. I think that's something that's kind of common wherever he was, just maybe by nature of his position, maybe by nature of his kind of quiet style of just doing the work on the field. He's a really, really fun player. I was really excited that you got to chat with him, Jim. So before we do that, just a quick mention to like and subscribe to us on YouTube, subscribe to us on all the platforms we're there. Follow RBLR Sports on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, James, all the other ones, the Blue Skies, the X.coms, there's a bunch coming out these days. I don't even know what else is around. But we're probably there if it exists as a social media platform. Give us a follow at RBLR Sports. I was going to say at RBLRsports.com. And one more thing, James, a shameless plug really quickly, that liking and subscribing is free. But if you need some new threads, you can support this podcast by heading over to shop.RBLRsports.com and checking out all the awesome designs that have been cooked up over there. Plenty of Rowdy stuff, plenty of Lightning, Bucks, Rays, Sun stuff. It's middle of the Sun season. Go check it out. It's time to get over for a good game in downtown Tampa. I'm excited to get to a game up in DC when they come play the Power. I'm going to get myself something. Check out the RBLR Sports shop at shop.RBLRsports.com. The link is in the description, and use the promo code COYR for 10% off.
And everyone, here we are in our interview with former Rowdies midfielder Yann Ekra. Yann is a true Iron Man, not only of the Rowdies, but of the USL overall. If I'm not mistaken, You have the most appearances for in the USL Championship in its history, and obviously a member of the 100 Club with the Tampa Bay Rowdies as well. So, like I said, a true Ironman and a legend of the Rowdies. Thank you for joining us, Yann. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm ecstatic to have you on, honestly. I was saying this before we got started, but we here at RBLR Sports and the Rowdy side, especially, of course, we were members of the Yann Ekra Fan Club, and we tried to promote the part there. You were a major part of that midfield the year that it was Leo Fernandez, yourself, and Lewis Hilton. That were really important players, but we're going to get into all of that in a little bit. Obviously, we're going to get into all of that. So, Yann, this is going to go just like our previous interviews with the Rowdies players. So, if you don't mind, could you tell myself as well as everyone listening, just give us your background getting into soccer, where you come from, and how you got to be the player that you are, or the player that you were, I suppose, but ultimately the professional player that we all got to enjoy.
So first, thanks for having me. It's great to talk to you guys. And so my name is Ekra. So I started to play when I was around 4 or 5 years old. Like just I grew up in France. So yeah, I'm from France. I started there. I live in Paris, and Paris is there's a big fan base of soccer, and basically all the kids in Europe play soccer. So yeah, it was easy to find a sport to like. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I played in my my neighborhood for a couple of years, and every day after school, at school for recess, all the stuff we were just playing. So so some of my teammates from school were playing in a soccer club, like local soccer club. And around when I was 11, 12, they told me, yeah, like you should come with us. They play on that local team, and we play against great teams and stuff like that. So I say, yeah, why not? So it was a tryout. So I went to that tryout, and I did really well during this tryout, and I was so fortunate because there were Lyon scouts that day in the stand. So right after the tryout, he contacted my parents, and he invited me to go to Lyon. So I actually didn't get the chance to play with my friends at that local club. Yeah, basically the first day I was there, I left right away.
Interesting.
Yeah. So after that, like I was in Lyon, and Lyon those days back in the day, and I mean now, they were like one of the top youth academy in the world.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
so much talents there, and so that's basically how I start to get into the high level athlete, like soccer wise.
And like you said, Lyon was absolutely one of the best academies, probably across the entire world in that period. I think that was when Lyon were regularly challenging for the quarterfinals, possibly the semifinals in the Champions League. It was an incredible team, and obviously an extremely high level there. But ultimately, I believe you joined Hull City, and then, of course, moved to America to join originally Harrisburg City. So could you tell me how, I guess, the process came about that you ended up moving to America? Because Hull City, I don't remember if they were in the Premier League at that time, but they were around that level. And coming across to the United States, a lot of people, I guess, don't necessarily think the United States at that point in their career. But you came over, and you obviously, at least in my opinion, blazed a trail especially in the championship here, because you lasted so long and were an incredible player for so many years. But yeah, how did it come about that you ultimately moved to America?
So this one, it was actually a crazy story. So my girlfriend back in the day, who's my wife now, she's her dad is American and mom French, and she grew up in France, and we came in the US for the holidays. So so when we came here, I was coming from an injury, and I was to do my rehab and get into to train again and go back to Europe. And before getting coming to US, our dad signed me for a tryout, but just for me to train, and when I get back in shape, in form, I go back to Europe. So for me, like, I sign you up so you can go and train, and I was like, okay, no problem. So I went there, and and he was ours, and so yeah, I went there. It was like for 3 days, and I met some incredible people. It was like really nice. Like my first time I was actually playing soccer in US, and the coaches were interesting on me, with me staying, and the seasons are different here compared to Europe. Like off season here is when like we actually play Europe, and it's the same schedule, the same dates. So
Right.
I was like, okay, and they told me uh, the league was gonna be done in around September, so I could go back if I want, and and that's it. And I was like, oh, okay, why not? Like, so I can really be in shape and really start to push and go back to. And I say that, and I ended up staying for those many years. So
Yeah.
and he ended up being, I mean, he ended up being an incredible journey. And like Sebastian Delgado said, here, like in Europe, we love to travel. Like in general, all the European players love to travel and like have a new experience in the US, like for soccer, and have because in Europe, basically soccer is already so big. Like, to impact the game there I mean, the game is already like reach a crazy level and impact and everything. And here, I think I thought about it when I came here. There's to leave a mark, basically. So that's why I choose to be here, and I choose to stay here.
That's that's a really cool. That's actually a really cool idea that intention was to make it something bigger, because just like you said, obviously Europe is pretty saturated. I think everybody can agree with that. Europe is pretty saturated with the sport. But yeah, when you came over, according to Transfer Market, I will say, roughly around 2012, it was getting bigger, and I will probably say that the 2010 World Cup that helped a lot, but it was nowhere near where it is even now. So I really appreciate that was your point of view there. But at the same time, it must have been a pretty big cultural difference and possibly some culture shock between the levels of support that you have coming from Europe and then moving to playing in Harrisburg. So could you talk to me about that as well? What was it like? What was it like getting used to the US and the sport over here?
So actually, funny story that so when I went to Harrisburg, they had a training facility who were pretty far from the stadium. So when I signed the contract with them, they took me to see the stadium, and Harrisburg is like the stadium is in the end, and from the city you can kind of see the a stadium. And I always thought it was that stadium where the soccer team is playing. And when I get there, uh, I see we driving and we pass that stadium. I was like, oh, he is not this one. And they say, oh no, this one is the baseball field. And it was like a big stadium, like nice stadium, the ones I used to.
Yeah.
And past that, it was right next to the baseball stadium. It was just, I mean, I don't know if I should call that a stadium. It was just like a field, and the grass was so high, like when you step on it, you couldn't see your shoes. Like it was, it was a shock when I saw that. And I was like, oh wow, like yeah, it's gonna be a long couple of months here, like when I saw the stadium. But I mean, after that is basically taking me back to when I started to play. I used to play in field like were not good at all, and like for me, I always said, like, if you're a good player, you love the game, like whatever field you play on, like you adapt and you do what you love. So yeah, like I and thinking about it, I have so many great memory about that field. Like I met so many nice people. So yeah, I was really happy to be there.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that that team did not stick around because I've said this before. It's obviously a problem when the U.S. soccer landscape loses any club, but ultimately, I will say their loss is our gain. Ultimately, you did come to the Rowdies. And again, going off of the transfer market here, I believe that you originally came in, I guess it would have been December of 2018. So from the 2019 season until the 2022-23 season. So tell me how you originally came to join the Rowdies. I don't know if this was a club that you were aware of until you moved to the States. That's my assumption, but probably had played them a couple of times here and there with Harrisburg, of course. And I would like to know what your opinion was before you came to the Rowdies, and then obviously how you joined the team, and maybe if your opinion changed, hopefully for the better. What was that process like?
Yeah, so after Harrisburg, I went to Philadelphia when I met Leo Fernandez, Philadelphia Union, and I played a couple of games with him in Harrisburg because the club were affiliated.
Yes,
and
right.
Harrisburg also, Lucky Mukasana was there, so one of the legends. And yeah, so yeah, I met some great people. Then after Harrisburg and Philadelphia, I moved to Charlotte, and is more in Charlotte that I start to play more with the Rowdies, because before the Rowdies was in the NASL.
Yes,
So
that's right.
Yeah. So against Charlotte, I got the chance to play against Rowdies, and I mean, it was the time Joe Cole just signed with them. Neil was on the team, like basically, like Leo was on the team also, and I was always interesting about the Rowdies because when you see that kind of players, you wonder, okay, like they try to actually do something big and be a top team on the league. And it was always great games playing against the Rowdies. I think everyone on the league who are not on the Rowdies, when they play the Rowdies, is a different game. Like they give it all and all that. So yeah, like I knew a little bit of the history of the Rowdies, the all the great players who went there, and yeah, like soon as Neil is the one who contacted me, and when I heard they were interesting, and yeah, like I wanted to be part of that project.
Neil Collins, I could imagine being a pretty persuasive guy, so I can understand where you're coming from there. When you ultimately joined the Rowdies, like I said, that central midfield unit, it wasn't always the three that I named, you and Lewis Hilton and Leo Fernandez, but frequently that was part of it. And then guys would rotate in and out. But tell me how you worked your way into the team and what the team culture was like. I know that we have had people in the past talk about working under Neil Collins, especially, but I could imagine also, in addition to being persuasive, he's probably pretty demanding. So, yeah, tell me what it was like working your way into the team and then becoming a regular starter for this bunch.
Yes. So when I get to the team, it was a new chapter of the Rowdies, I believe, because Neil was the year before it just became middle of the season, I think, the coach. So that season, that's when I got here, and he wanted to change the culture of I shouldn't say the culture, maybe the mentality of the players, and bring players who are hungry, who wants to win, who wants to do well, and he did everything to find the people who would fight for the fans, for the club, for the city, and yeah, he was demanding, and obviously as a player, sometimes you're like, come on again, we have to do that, but like he was so passionate, and he was contagious. Like he brought that spirit to all the players, all the staff, everyone. So we were all looking in the same direction, and that direction was to win. Like every game we were playing to win. Every game we were playing to make sure the fans recognize themselves through us. Like because again, like when the fan come to watch a game, they want to see excitement. They want to see like a brave team, a team who's on the front foot, and yeah, and like every day in training, we were playing like it's the last day. So we, like, everyone was fighting, and he brought that. Also, good players around that tie into that mentality, and yeah, that's why we had those success.
Yeah, I wanted to dig into specifically the success that you guys had. I was going through the stats previously. I think 2023 was your last season, 32 appearances, 27 starts, and ultimately, I will say 3 RBLR Sports Man of the Match awards for whatever that's worth. So, in fact, also another one in the Open Cup. But in addition to that, I wanted to specifically dig into the 2022 season, because that is where I think the Rowdies looked so good. Ultimately, especially with you guys in the midfield, if I'm not mistaken, that was the year that Lewis Hilton was moved to be the number 10, and you were acting as kind of a number 8 alongside of him, with Lewis Hilton as the defensive midfielder behind both of you. And there was one game in the middle of the season, I wish I could remember specifically which was. I believe it was something, I believe it was against Charleston or Charlotte. It was against one of those two teams from that area. And you stood out for your ability to put the opposition back line under pressure when we did not have the ball, and try and win it back in an area that made them cough up the ball over and over. And it was just such an important performance. And I realized, like, my God, this midfield that we have, the 3 of you working together. And that was, I think 2022 was Leo Fernandez's big season as well. So could you talk me specifically through 2022 as best you remember it? I think the Rowdies made it to the conference finals and then ultimately lost to Louisville City, but it was an incredible season. and it was such a joy to watch the three of you in the midfield go to work.
Yeah, I mean, always we were like, I think the coaching staff did well on that, because they try to find a midfielder that complete each other. So we were different. Each of us was different the way we play. We had different style, but like catching all of those different style on the team that's what make us perform. Because yeah, when Lewis was getting the ball, I knew what he was gonna do. When Leo was getting the ball, I knew it. Like when I had the ball, they knew what I was gonna do. Like we knew each other perfectly, and yeah, like all that we were basically built in training. And in training we worked on that. We actually, because sometimes players a lot of players just look at their performance and whatever the other do, whatever, like if they did well, okay, it's fine, I don't care what the other do. And I think the mentality was different there, like because every time we had each other back. Like if I see if I was struggling, Leo and Lewis was pushing me, and like for example, I lose the ball, they were fighting for me to get the ball back. They were losing the ball, I was fighting for them. Like and it was not only the midfielders, it was the whole team. Like the whole team was fighting for each other, and that's why is a big highlight. We should appreciate like the job of the coaching staff, because they build that. You know, they brought all of us together and to build that chemistry and make the team great. Yeah.
It was truly a great team in 20. I mean, all of those 2-3 years there. Unfortunately, it didn't turn into a trophy like we all expected it to, because the team was so talented. But you're right; it was absolutely a great team. I will remember that fondly for a long time. But my last one related to your professional career, and then I want to talk to you about what you're doing now with the coaching. I wanted to get into specifically your all-time appearances in the USL. I was wrong when I said that you were the current all-time leader. You previously held the record for the most appearances in the USL Championship. Since then, Sean Toach has earned 300 appearances, and Canardo Forbes with Pittsburgh Riverhounds has 309. A couple of Ironmen as well there, but you did hold the record for a little bit. So just talk to me about, how you lasted so long in the USL as this top level athlete and playing on a couple of different teams, all the ones that you mentioned, Harrisburg and Charlotte, and of course the Rowdies ultimately. But it must mean a lot to have been able to, or I guess the way that I would think about it is it must mean a lot to have earned the confidence of coaching staffs for so long. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said earlier, when I chose to come to you, it was to make an impact. And for me, like be able to play those many years and perform and always give 100%. That's why, like I always had that passion, wanted my team to be successful, my teammate to feel good, and like every year I was fighting for that, like to give everything. And yeah, when you have that also, like I mean, every coach, that's what they want the player to give 100%, and they want the player they can trust and who's willing to fight for the team. And yeah, that's how I last so long. I believe.
A lot of determination and a very good outlook on soccer in America. Again, wanted to be an impact. I truly think that that's a very cool outlook to have. But now I would like to transition the conversation from your playing career to your post-playing career, where you are now a coach with Florida Premier, and not only that, recently a winning coach as well. So if you could give us all a little bit more background on your coaching career, and where things are at the moment with your team. I think that you also said that possibly you were looking for players to at least come to tryouts, I would assume. But yeah, let's get into the coaching part of it now.
So so like again, I always loved the game, and I mean, I said when I was gonna be done playing, like that was I want to stay in the game, and again, I did as a player, I want to make an impact. So, and during my playing career, I was doing my licenses to earn the job, because again, coaching is different than playing. It's not because you played that's you can coach. Is different, and I mean, it's the same passion but different different way, so you have to learn it. So I did it during my coaching career, and he helped me also, like doing it during my coaching career, because I could understand more coaching decisions and why the coach was doing certain stuff. So yeah, it was beneficial. Then yeah, I had a chance to meet with the Florida Premier organization, and listen to the project and what they want to be. And yeah, and they want to have an impact. They want to be the best team, and they want to win. And yeah, I felt like I could help them achieve that. So yeah, that's why I start coaching. Yeah, I'm very happy with that so far.
And Florida Premier at least has helped Santiago Castaneda, a former Rowdies Academy player, get to a very high level. So there's a good organization there, and obviously some talented players involved too, including, I would like to highlight, or allow you to highlight, your team. You just won the USL Youth League, I believe you said. So tell us a little bit more about that too, please.
Yeah, so yeah, we won the USL Youth League, and it was I mean, when we first signed up to that tournament, I was really happy, because again, is a USL. I've been playing for the USL for those many years, and
Naturally, yeah.
yeah, yeah, and I really, that's the first thing I told the players. I told them that like, I mean, USL is a big organization, and that tournament will be something special, and they will be something that they will remember, because like it's hard to win USL. Like like every year you have teams going to USL, battling and stuff like that, and I know how hard it is. So I told them a little bit my story with the USL, and yeah, and all that. With also there is a very quality team. There's some top players, and yeah, they fight for it, and yeah, we won the USL, and again, like, even now they're still talking about it. They loved it. It was really well organized, and yeah, it was a great experience for them, and also for me. Yeah.
That's awesome. And I mean, very cool to have achieved success so early on as a coach. That's I'm sure that that's also hard to come by, and it feels different from success as a player. But I can imagine that it's possibly even more rewarding to see the players that you are leading go out and win something as important like that. That just seems and sounds very cool to me.
No, it definitely is, and the fact that the fact that like I was a USL player, going to now as a coach of a team who's winning that USL Championship. No, it was great, and hopefully we go back again and doing it again. Because again, as a coach and as a player, you always have to to move forward. Okay, what's next? You want to win the next one and do everything to be ready for the next one.
That's how you get to the next level, obviously. So yeah, it's very important to instill that hunger in them, I guess. But Yann, I think that with that, the way that we usually get through to the end of interviews is doing a little bit of rapid fire. I don't want it to be too rapid because I have some questions that are just, yes or no's here or there, but a couple of things along the way. So the first thing that I'll start out with should be a relatively simple one here. Who was your idol growing up? Who was the player that you saw and you were like, that's the guy that I want to be like?
For me it was Ronaldo, the Brazilian R9. Is actually he's the first player that I looked and I was like, wow, like I want to be a soccer player. So I always look for him, and I mean also Zidane, like those players were the one who make me want to play.
I mean, I couldn't think of two more emblematic players of the early 2000s, I think, than Ronaldo and Zidane. I unfortunately didn't watch a ton of soccer around that time, but the 2006 World Cup, I did. That's where it like clicked for me. I watched a ton of that tournament. And that's where I was like, oh, I like this sport. This is great. And that wasn't Zidane's best performance, but up until the final, at least, he was still an incredible player. So, that's a really cool. That's really cool to hear. Who was your favorite team growing up? Who's your club of choice?
I actually have two. I have Madrid. Real Madrid is always been because Zidane and Ronaldo play there
naturally.
And I start to follow them there, and Benzema also, like who I'm a big fan of. And France, I always love Marseille because my family and I originally from Ivory Coast, and Drogba played there, and we used to watch with my uncle, my dad. We used to watch Marseille games every time, and I became a big fan of Marseille also.
Gotcha. That's interesting. That's a good shout. All right. Well, that leads me to another question here. I guess familially, if you're from Ivory Coast, let's say France and Ivory Coast were playing, who would you be rooting for in that game?
That would be tough. That would be really tough. Maybe a draw. A draw would be good. because I can't really choose. So if I choose one, I will half of my family will be mad, and if I choose the other half will be mad.
That makes sense. It's a very diplomatic answer. Okay, well let me propose one more. Let's say with FIFA's new crazy Club World Cup, the Rowdies end up playing Lyon. Who do you want to win in that one?
No, the Rowdies. Because Lyon won enough, They won a lot of trophies. Rowdies won trophies too, but we could win more. Hopefully this year, actually, with the new team. Yeah.
Have you been keeping up with the Rowdies over, I guess, 2024, and then now into the off season into 2025? Have you been following the team?
I didn't have the chance to go to a game because of my schedule as a coach.
That makes
And
sense.
but I'm still, yeah, I'm keeping in touch with a few of the guys, Leo, Aaron, Forrest, like a lot of good friends still there. So yeah, I still talk to them, and once in a while I send them a message, and always wish them the best, and yeah, that's how I keep track of the with the Rowdies. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's always cool again to hear that former players are still involved in one way or another, or at least interested in making sure that the team is keeping up to the same standards, because there are very high standards to meet there. All right. Well, my last question for you. This is one of the fun ones that I like to end on, and I think I did this with Sebastian Dalgard as well. So, if you had the option for a cheat day meal, you could eat anything you want from anywhere in the world. What would it be?
Mm. Oh, I stay with my French pastries. My French pastries is yeah, that's my the weak point, yeah. So French pastries, French food, that's the one.
What comes in? What's your favorite French pastry? Like, what comes in, or is it just the bread
Oh,
itself, or does it have some type of some filling?
my favorite French pastry is the apple tart with some almond. Also, they had almond on the apple pie. I used to call in US. Yeah. So this with in France we put some almond also in it, and yeah, it's amazing.
That does sound really good. This is not specifically related, but I have family in Germany, and I visited them, and I think that Europe, especially probably Germany and France and maybe Italy, have a very big culture centered around a neighborhood bakery. That's not
Mm,
something that is as common here in the U.S. as specifically having a neighborhood bakery, but it does seem like
mm,
it's a big part of the culture in those countries in the middle of Europe. And I could imagine that
mm,
France has a lot of very, very good pastries, much like
mm,
the bakeries that I would go to with my family over in Germany.
mm. No, yeah, I mean, he's big on like the baguette, all, yeah, the bakeries are, yeah, like you cannot have a meal without your baguette in France. So yeah, no, he's big there. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right. Well, with that, I think that we have taken up enough of your time, Jan. I really do appreciate you coming on and telling us about where things are, not only for you now, but walking me through your past. We're going to have you on at some point again here so that we can talk more about the coaching side of things. But thank you so much for joining us on RBLR Rowdies, and yeah, I'm very appreciative. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and yeah, and also for the listeners. If you want to join the Florida Premier, you're more than welcome. The tryout are soon, and yeah, we love to have some good players in there.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Anybody who has some talent, go and do the tryout for Florida Premier. It is obviously a very good club, and of course, very good coaches.
Thank you.
And there was our interview with Yann Ekra, the third overall appearance holder for the USL Championship in its entire history. Carlos, obviously, there was a lot of information there. And not only that, we did get into what Yann Ekra is working on right now with his coaching stuff. Yet another player who, during his career, earned his coaching badges. Honestly, I love that because so many players are taking advantage of the situation where, of course, there is a little bit of downtime as a player, not a ton, but you can work on your coaching badges and you can be prepared for the life after, of course. And
Yeah.
Yann Ekra was another one of those players to do that. I think that that's really cool that so many players are doing that. And not only that, but they're choosing to stay in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah. I wouldn't know necessarily like the logistics of how that all works, like how long it takes and whatnot, but it is something that we've seen happen recently with a lot of former Rowdies players, or now former Rowdies players, who we've heard of doing their coaching license while they're still a player. They help out with like the youth camps that the Rowdies put on and whatnot.
Yeah.
I'm sure that helps. I think it's really cool. I think in some way that must be a testament to the Rowdies organization, maybe empowering them to put themselves in a position to do that. I think it's really cool. And like you said, they keep them around the Tampa Bay area. There's obviously plenty of talent that's come through the Rowdies as players that can, very often be turned into great coaching talent. So it's really cool that folks like Ekra and Dalgard stick around the Tampa Bay area. Maybe there's a future with them and the Rowdies again in some technical staff way. I think it's really cool that we've seen a lot of former players stick around as coaches. So Ekra, another great example of that. So James, I'm really glad you got to sit down with him and chat, because a lot of good stuff in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will have him on anytime that he is available to join us and willing, of course, just like Sebastian Dalgard, any of the other people that we've spoken to, Michael Nanchoff, Perry Vanderbeck, all sorts of great Rowdies names that we have spoken to in the past. So we will just keep it up as much as we can. And anybody that has any other connections to Rowdies players, let us know. Let's move into the Rowdies news this week, though, Carlos, because there actually was a fair little bit of it. Some of it, I would say, is a little disappointing, and I'll just specifically point to our first bullet point on this list. And then the rest of it, I think, is entirely exciting. So let's hop in. The first piece of news, young forward Christian Ortiz has been loaned to the Columbus Crew 2 organization in MLS Next Pro. This is where I would say, personally, just very, very personally, I am a little disappointed that he, I guess, was not in the coaching staff's plans enough that they were going to put him on. It should be noted that Andrei Mustali was signed alongside him this past year, not at the same time, but over the course of the same year. And ultimately, they have kept Mustali at least until this point. So I'm assuming that means that he will continue to play good minutes. But if they felt that Christian Ortiz was going to get a better opportunity with Columbus Crew 2, then I do understand that. And getting a young player as much playing time as possible, that is what they need. The highest level a youth player can play at, the most amount of time at that level, that's what they need. So I understand, but I am still a little disappointed. Carlos, I'm turning it over to you.
Yeah, so this is a little curious to me, and I think initially, I think it could be a good thing. I'm pretty neutral about it. If it means more minutes for Christian Ortiz, I think then it's absolutely a good thing.
Yeah.
Especially because having brought on Wubens Pacias, is that how we said we pronounce his last name, Pacias?
Until we get some sort of direction otherwise.
Yeah. Okay. We'll run with Wubens Pacias. Pacias, I mean, we'll get to the preseason games momentarily, but had a pretty good showing in one of them, apparently. And it looks like he could certainly compete to be a starter, right? And if not, if they're running, this kind of front two that we saw with Arteaga and Jennings last year a lot, it seems like with Mustali on the bench too, Ortiz wasn't really going to get significant minutes here either way. And I would hope, I hoped he would have, obviously, I'd love to see Ortiz succeed here. But I think if he gets more minutes in Columbus Crew 2, then I think it's totally worth it, because he's not going to get regular minutes here. And that's the reality of it right now. It's just, we went out and signed a really, really talented striker in Pacias. And I think that's really great for us, obviously, selfishly. So I think this is probably a good thing. That being said, I'm curious, I haven't really heard of many loans to B teams, if that makes any sense. I haven't really heard of many loans to MLS reserve squads, which is a little interesting to me, because I think by their nature, these reserve squads are intended to be the trial, training, proving grounds for the senior squads in their respective organizations, right? In this case, Columbus Crew, the MLS squad, right? Columbus Crew 2 would be the proving ground for that MLS squad. So I'm a little scared that Columbus is trying to poach Christian Ortiz from us already before we get the full Ortiz experience. Assuming he has a really great showing with Columbus Crew 2, which I think is totally possible, I do see a world in which Columbus Crew keeps him around full-time. I would assume that comes with a purchase. It's not really a free transfer, which would be great for the Rowdies, obviously. I'm sure there's money involved there. But I would like the full Ortiz experience at one point. So hopefully he does really well over there. I'm curious to see how what the future has in store for him, and what that looks like with Columbus Crew too. It is interesting to me that this is a loan to an MLS reserve squad specifically. So we'll keep an eye on this. Obviously, wishing him all the best this season. I'm sure he'll get more minutes because he's an incredibly talented player, and there's probably more room for him to get starting minutes over there. But I am curious what Columbus Crew is kind of eyeing with this loan, if they're keeping him around for a potential purchase from the Rowdies. So keep an eye on this. This is really interesting. Hoping the best for him this year, and I'm sure he'll show out and prove that he deserves minutes, hopefully on this Rowdy squad going forward.
Yeah. It will just be interesting to see how much playing time he gets. Like you said, I really expect him to get a lot more playing time with the Columbus Crew too, for starters, and I do expect that to turn into a lot more goals. The only other thing that I wanted to highlight with Columbus Crew 2, he will have some interesting competition here, because last night I tuned into the CONCACAF Under-17 World Cup qualification tournament, and the U.S. played the U.S. Virgin Islands. Now, anyone who is unaware, that is about the biggest disparity between two teams as you can get in CONCACAF at any level. And the U.S. won 22-0, with Columbus Crew 2 striker Chase Adams getting 10 goals.
Holy crap.
Double digits individual goals, which is pretty insane. So Christian Ortiz will at least have that little bit of competition. But I did want to highlight that little tidbit because it's those are two very interesting numbers in the world of soccer.
That's good competition. That's good competition right there. Yeah. 10 goals in one game. I don't think I've ever seen that, except maybe in FIFA when I was playing my little cousin last year. That's crazy. So
yeah.
Obviously, like you said, pretty big gap between the two squads, but certainly a sign of talent. I mean, that'll be really good for Christian Ortiz to have in terms of competition. So great note there, James. Yeah, it's a good pull.
Yeah. Now, moving on to the next piece of news, which, Carlos, I think we can both agree, very exciting, very good news. The Rowdies have a keeper, so nobody can complain about this one unless they have some personal vendetta against this guy. And I don't know why they would, because, I mean, they would have to probably come from Argentina to actually even know who he was beforehand. The Rowdies signed Argentine goalkeeper Nicolas Campisi, and I just want to say, eat it, Miami. We have our own Argentine player, and he's probably going to be better than yours. Carlos, I'm going to turn it back over to you once more.
He's probably going to be better than their new keeper too, by the way. But we'll get to him. Nicolas Campisi. This is a really interesting pickup. I am fascinated by how this happened. Every once in a while we have kind of a random signing, right? I always point to like Felix Schroeder several seasons ago.
Yes.
Just like out of nowhere from like the Norwegian league. We didn't seem to have any connection on that end. I don't know where the connection would have come from within the Rowdies organization into Argentina. So this is really interesting to me. To me, it's a good sign that we kind of took the initiative to go down there and grab a player of decent quality. So good for the Rowdies. I mean, the kid looks like, not kid, he's in his prime. He's 28 years old. The guy looks like he can ball. Looking at his brief highlights, he has had good performances for Unión de Santa Fe in Argentine First Division, which, James, as you know, is an incredibly competitive and talented league.
Oh, yeah.
He's also played at Sol de America in Paraguay, had a brief stop at Huracan in the Argentinian league as well, but spent a lot of time in Paraguay, it seems. And again, another great league over there. Sol de America is another First Division team over there. So a lot of experience for him. Kind of a drop off in minutes in the last couple seasons, it looks like. So maybe he's looking to get more minutes and a totally new adventure, obviously, in the United States. I am fascinated to see how this came about. And if I have the chance to ask someone from the Rowdies front office, before the season kicks off, I'd love to figure out how we made this connection. Again, pretty encouraging on my end to see that we go down to South America and pick up a player who seems to be pretty solid. and take a chance on him, because that's kind of what we've been asking for a bit, James, is making these jumps and seeing how it goes. So, yeah, looks like he's a proven player, plenty of experience under his belt. Like I said, 28 years old, coming from Unión de Santa Fe. It'll be really, really interesting to see how this plays out. I have no clue who he is, frankly, but he looks like he can be a solid player. And like you said, maybe it would be weird if someone from the Rowdies base knew who Nicolas Campisi was based on where he's coming from. So, yeah, fantastic pickup, I think. But it's great. More than anything, we have a keeper, and the keeper looks really, really solid. And apparently my screen's still frozen, James. Is it frozen?
At the moment, but I can still hear you, so there's no problem there.
All right. Well, James, tell me what you think about this pickup, because this is a really interesting one.
Yeah, last year I will say it was easier to catch Argentinian League soccer because it was available on Paramount Plus. Unfortunately, that no longer appears to be the case. Also, the case for the Brazilian League, where we previously had it in Paramount Plus, and it is no longer there. But that's not what we're discussing at the moment. Nicolas Campisi was not the starter for Unión in Argentina, but I think that having a direct backup to an Argentinian top flight club, unless it's literally one of the new clubs that was promoted because they changed the size of their league, I think this is some real good business here. And personally, I'm excited for this move. I think that I don't have a ton of information about Nicolas Campisi because of his, there's just probably not a ton of information around the internet where I could look, like Transfer Market, for instance. But yeah, I think that this is looking good for us, and I'm excited for where this is going to go. We'll see what other goalkeepers sign on. Possibly he will be somebody who is a backup here. At this point, I'm just going to say I doubt that. But again, maybe we go out and we get, I don't know. Maybe we go out and we get Franco Armani in a little bit. Probably not. But if that's the case, then Nicolas Campisi is going to end up being a backup. I don't see that happening. So at this point, I'm going to assume that he's going to be our starting goalkeeper. And I'm pretty happy with this move personally. Either way, that's where I'm sitting right now.
Yeah. I'm excited. Like I said, I'm excited that we went down to South America and picked up a veteran player. It's exciting. Again, I'm fascinated by how this connection came about, or if there was a connection, and we just kind of reached out to Unión de Santa Fe and said, hey, this guy looks interesting to us. Either way, interesting, exciting, potentially a really, really good pickup. Really is no way to know until the season starts. But yeah, like you said, I'd be inclined to think this is going to be our goalkeeper one right now. But we'll see. Yeah, Nicolas Campisi, good pickup, South American player from Unión de Santa Fe. Solid. Let's make a Golden Glove player out of him for sure.
And let's build more of those South American connections. In my opinion, I think that would be great for this team.
Yeah.
Carlos, our next bit of information related to the Rowdies is especially interesting because it means that we are ever so much closer to the actual season itself. So the Rowdies preseason is out. And there are a couple of games. I guess there's one game that has already happened, and there's one game that has already happened, and we're going to talk about that one. Today, there is another one that has taken place.
Mm-hmm.
So that is actually a total of 2 for those of us who can count. And there will be one coming up this weekend before we have a couple more. Carlos, you noted the 2 results, not the 1, the 2 results that we have. So I'm going to let you take it away from here while I redo rudimentary math.
Yeah. James, February 8th, so that was this past weekend, we took on Philadelphia Union 2 and won 6-2 in that matchup. I don't really know. I'll qualify whatever I'll say about these 2 results by saying neither of us obviously saw these games.
Right.
Don't know of anyone who was around for them. I know Sudal was at the one today. So maybe we can ask him about how the game against the next opponent I mentioned went. But yeah, 6-2 win against Philadelphia Union 2. Goal scorers included Ollie Bassett, Manu Arteaga, 2 goals from Wubens Pasillas, a goal from Leo Fernandez, and a goal from a trialist. So mysterious man.
Very interesting
as well. 6-2 win for the Rowdies over Philadelphia Union 2. Don't even know what the lineups looked like, what they were, what the mix looked like, what we were playing around with. But good to note that all these different people scored a goal. It's all players that you want to get active on the score sheet during, throughout the season this year. So it's really,
especially
really cool.
trialist.
Yeah. So it is really cool to see that all these players are already kind of getting their goal scoring feet under them. Like I said, Ollie Bassett, attacking mid, Artiaga, obviously our striker, Rubens Pacias, another striker, and Leo Fernandez, getting goals, and then a trialist. So exciting stuff on that end. Today, February 11th, when we are talking about this, the New England Revolution came to town to play against the Rowdies at IMG Academy. That result was a 1-0 win for New England with a goal by Georgetown Ahoya, Jack Panayotu, to put the Revs ahead 1-0 and get the result for them. Again, not really sure what that Rowdies lineup looked like. The Revolution lineup seemed to have a mix of veteran guys and young players that they're playing around with. So make of that what you will. I don't really have much to add to that, James. Do you have anything we can say about these first 2 preseason games?
At this point, it's probably just early days for us to be able to get any real opinions about it. But like I said, my biggest excitement at this point is because we have preseason games. I know that actual games that count for points and you can actually attend them. For instance, all of those are coming up real soon.
Yeah. Speaking of games you can attend, the next preseason matchup, February 15th, is against CF Montreal, formerly Montreal Impact. This game is going to take place out in Auburndale, by the way. Take a look at the Rowdies website. They have the location information. I'm totally blanking on what the name of the area they're playing it in. It's some sort of sportsplex over there. But yeah, February 15th, this Saturday, the Rowdies are playing Montreal in their next preseason matchup. That's the only one that's officially listed as open to the public. So make of that what you will. February 19th, a matchup against South Georgia Tormenta FC, who will be playing in the Jägermeister Cup this year. Tormenta seems to be a team we always see in the preseason now, so it's fun to see them again. February 22nd, we'll match up against USF, as has become somewhat of a tradition in the preseason. And finally, February 28th, we wrap up with a matchup against Orlando City B. And that's your preseason, James. That's all the matches we'll play scheduled for these, this February preseason. I'm really, really excited because, like you said, that means March is coming around the corner. We'll have full action, full speed games that count for points. So I'm really, really excited. Like you said, maybe not much to take away from these first 2 games other than that it's exciting to see that our attacking players are already scoring goals. So that's really cool. But again, make of that what you will. James, anything else you want to mention about the preseason games? Anything to add on these upcoming games before we move on?
No, I think we're ready to go to the next part.
All right. Extra time it is. As we wrap up this episode, James, we want to throw this in here because this is a kind of a random signing that we should mention.
Yeah.
The Miami FC, not to be confused with Inter Miami or whatever they're called. The biggest team in Miami has made another massive signing, arguably the signing of the last 10 years in Miami soccer. Bill Hamid will be the goalkeeper for the Miami FC. I don't really have anything else to say about this, to be honest. This is interesting. Shout out to Miami for becoming like the retirement home of MLS squads now, I guess. But hey, I'm sure he'll do good at this level, absolutely. But yeah, Bill Hamid, Miami FC keeper. I don't really know what else to say about that.
Yeah, it's really weird. It took me super by surprise. I did not have anything prepared for this up until I saw literally that the announcement was made. I did not have any expectations, I guess is the way that I really should phrase this. It should also be noted, Tom DePinto, who covers the Sun for RBLR Sports, pointed out that his sister currently plays for Fort Lauderdale United. So there is a relatively close I don't know if they could share a house because the training sessions are probably pretty far apart. But yeah, they are obviously relatively close to each other. So that's cool in and of itself. Otherwise, it is just a little bit weird. And I think that Bill Hamid was a very promising player for a while, and then for one reason or another, his career did not go where everybody expected it would, especially after his stint in Europe, I think in Denmark specifically. So yeah, it's interesting. And I think that I will say this one thing very easily, Carlos. This is going to be a huge improvement for Miami on their roster last season, and especially in the goalkeeper core. That is absolutely indisputable at this point.
Oh, geez. I mean, I don't even remember their names, but both those keepers that they rotated in and out last year had the biggest blunders I've ever seen from keepers. And it was like every other game, James. It was ridiculous. They were whiffing like on just pass. I don't know. By the way, Bill Hamid's played like one game for Northern Virginia FC in USL League 2, another 5 games for Virginia Dream FC in the NPSL, and then keeps sticking around the DMV up here in the DC area, and went to Maryland Bobcats for 3 games in Nice.
3 games.
Yeah, so 2024 was spent around the lower leagues of U.S. soccer, playing a total of 9 games across 3 different teams, across 3 different leagues. I don't know what's going on with Bill Hamid. I frankly forgot that he was playing still after the quick Memphis stint. I didn't really know where he ended up, but I guess it's the Miami FC now. So, yeah, Maryland Bobcats legend Bill Hamid is a Miami FC player. Congrats to him. Hopefully that makes for some competent goalkeeping for Miami FC. Okay, I think that's all we should say on this before I keep ranting about DMV League 2 soccer. James, a note about Fort Lauderdale United here. They're going to be fielding a team in USL League 2 ahead of their jump up. What's up with that?
Yes, so Fort Lauderdale United will ultimately, on the men's side, join the professional ranks. At the moment, of course, they are professional on the women's side in the USL Super League, where they have already played the Tampa Bay Sun, both home and away. Both were draws with late goals and late equalizers ultimately. But yeah, it was the women's side where they started their professional life, and now they will be playing in the USL League 2 on the men's side before jumping into the professional side. But 2025, they will be the division below, I guess the division below FC Naples. So I don't know if we will see them taking part in any other competitions that we would come across. But the point is, we'll get more of them in the future on both the men's and the women's side, where we can hate on Fort Lauderdale all over again, folks. Don't worry. It's coming up. It's nearby. It's just not here in 2025 on the men's side. On the women's side, it is already here.
I just don't know if there's gonna be anyone to hate, James. I don't know. Like I love soccer clubs and everywhere. I don't know what kind of support Fort Lauderdale United will have on the men's side. And I've seen the women's crowds for Fort Lauderdale United be kind of light too. Like, I don't really know what's going on with them, or if this was a sustainable project in Fort Lauderdale, but maybe I'm being pessimistic. I don't really have a great outlook on the South Florida soccer community. I'm not quite sure this is going to go particularly well when they join the men's league, frankly, if they get to that point. But this is a larger commentary on USL's expansion strategy that we could spend a long time talking about. In the meantime, they're in League 2, so that's a good note here. James, anything to mention before we wrap up and I keep talking about the negatives of USL's rapid expansion strategy?
No, I mean, I understand where you're coming from there. If you look in places like England, there are 100 clubs in the city of London alone, and here it's hard enough to have 2 clubs in a city the size of Chattanooga, let's say. I think that Miami, or the Miami area, the whole metro area, should be able to ideally support probably like 10 clubs, honestly, but let's imagine that in the soccer landscape in America, and it's of course extremely difficult. So yeah, between Inter Miami, the Miami, who are moving their location, I think I forget where we decided they were going, if they were going to Homestead, or it was Homestead. Okay.
Yeah.
And then there's Fort Lauderdale, which is slightly north of Miami. So you have Fort Lauderdale, Miami, Homestead south of that. Maybe some team representing the Keys in the future. I don't know, but yeah, it's it is saturated in a way that makes sense in other countries, but in America, it's definitely a challenge. So we're going to have to see how it all plays out. But that is probably a question for RBLR Rowdies in 2027, let's say. In the meantime, I think that we can just say thank you, listeners, for tuning in this week. We always appreciate when you do. Please follow RBLR Sports on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Threads, anywhere you are. Blue Sky, we are there as well. I am mostly on Twitter at RBLR James K. You can use the hashtag AskRBLR, or you can reach Carlos. Carlos, where are you?
At Carlos TPA10 on x.com/Twitter. Georgetown basketball is wrapping up their season, so it's almost time to switch full time into the Rowdies, which will be really nice. I imagine the Georgetown season ends before March Madness, unfortunately. So full Rowdies content back on your regularly scheduled Carlos TPA10 programming.
There we go. And please like and subscribe to our podcast. You can get the full experience on YouTube. We are also on Spotify, the iHeartRadio app, Apple, and Google Podcasts for a couple of preseason games that are already done and a couple more on the way. Come on, you Rowdies.
Get to Auburndale.
Thank you for tuning into this presentation by RBLR Sports. On your way out of the stadium, please remember to like and subscribe.